This coronavirus is bigger than 9/11 or Pearl Harbor or anything we've ever seen before. And on the biggest picture of all, the coronavirus and the coming crash, financial collapse possibly, marks the end of the industrial age and the beginning of the information age. It's a very big move. And the people that are in trouble today are people still stuck in industrial age thoughts. The people that are having a hard time are called BBC, NBC, CBS, because they're still industrial age. And they're going to get crushed. And it's our meaningful work that gets us through the hard times. So the good news is my company is sold out. We cannot keep up with product. The bad news is the supply chain shut down. But that's a good problem. We have tons of cash. I have gold, I have silver. And I do have challenges in the real estate market, but that's going to make me stronger. That's my only attitude I can have. Otherwise, I just cry and say, well, the government should take care of me. I need a bailout. I need a stimulus. If you're in trouble today, my message is not so kind. This is hard talk, not happy talk. The crisis is in your head. Now, that's the bad news. The good news, you can change the crisis by changing what's inside your head. And so I'm doing, I hate to brag, but I'm doing extremely well financially today because as I was warning everybody, this crisis was coming. But it would be irresponsible of me to warn people of the crisis and not personally make changes myself. So The good news is the crisis is in your head. The bad news is in your head. Because we have no financial education in our schools. Why? And my poor dad was a PhD. And the problem with PhDs and academics, as you know, they hide behind this piece of paper called a diploma. It doesn't mean they know anything. So my poor dad and many of the academics running, the Fed and the Treasury and our government are academics hiding behind diplomas, but they don't have a financial statement. You see, Rich Dad had a financial statement. My poor dad had a diploma. They're two different pieces of paper symbolizing two different states. So a diploma is BS. Mine stands for Bachelor of Science. Whereas a financial statement, as you know, on the corporate level, you cannot lie in a financial because that's fraud. So a financial statement, income, expense, assets, liabilities, statement of cash flow, which is what Rich Dad, Poor Dad's about. If you lie on that, you go to jail. So when I go to my banker and somebody says, well, I can't get a loan, the reason they can't get a loan is because they don't have a financial statement. Your financial statement is your report card. 99% of all kids, and that includes MBAs and all that, leave school not realizing the most important piece of paper is not their diploma, but a financial statement. So you look at the richest people on earth today, they didn't graduate from school. Steve Jobs, all those guys, Henry Ford, Disney, they don't have college degrees. Branson from England. So the financial statement is for real. So that's all this was about. So what was my mission at that point? To bring financial education so simple that the average person could understand it. So I wrote this book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It was turned down by every publisher in 1997 saying you didn't know what you're talking about. I knew what I was talking about, but the academics don't. And that's the prime problem. They're running the Fed, they're running our government. These Larry Summers and all these guys, they're criminals because they think they're smart. They're ignorant.
Right.
They said, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you don't know what you're talking about. I said, the rich don't work for money. Savers are losers. Your house is not an asset. And I was crucified, just crucified. There was a straw man and there was a lion with no heart. And so they thought they could go see the wizard and the wizard would give them what they asked for. So they prance along the yellow brick road and they pull back the curtain. There's a midget back there, this big illusion. And that's Ben Bernanke, Janet Yellen, and this guy Powell, and before that was that other character, I forget his name already. But everybody thinks they're wizards, but they're controlled by grunge, gross universal cash mix. Our wealth is stolen via the money we work for. I'm not recommending this book, but as I'm not a Buddhist either, but when I read Crunch of Giants, I had what they call a Satori moment. Satori means where your past, present, and future line up. Get the light. Get it. I read this book, and I understand what Fuller was saying. He says, we're being ripped off. I went, oh my God. And then the question is, what does God want done? And for me, I'm not saying it to everybody else, what does God want done is we need financial education, because the real problem of this crisis started back in 1904 when the richest guys on earth took over the education system of the United States. They formed a thing called the General Education Board. It was formed by guys like Rockefeller and J.P. Morgan. And what they pulled out of education was financial education. And so the reason they could rip us off, as you and I know, is via the mechanism of money. And that's why I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It was a warning shot across the bow back in 1997. I said, wake up, something's coming down the road. So we're here right now. This is the biggest transformation in the history of the world. It's from industrial age to information age. But if you're losing money right now, the problem starts in what you were taught in school. Because they never taught you anything about money. They never taught you about a financial statement, like my rich dad did. They teach you that diploma is everything. It's a piece of toilet paper. BS. Yeah, and the harder you work for money, the poorer you're gonna get. That's the tragedy. So this is how what Fuller talked about, the prison is inside our head, Buckminster Fuller. It starts with misinformation and misorientation. Misinformation, misorientation. And he says, how dare our schools punish kids for making mistakes? How else do you learn if you don't make a mistake and learn from your mistake? He says, God designed us. I'm not really religious, I'm not preaching here, okay? God designed us to learn by making mistakes. For instance, a baby learns to walk by falling down. Baby learns, to ride a bicycle by falling off the bicycle. Tiger Woods, the greatest golfer ever in history of the world, because he made more mistakes than you and I did. But our schools punish you for making mistakes. That's misorientation, misinformation. So there's tall office buildings and shopping centers and all that, they're all collapsing. I'll give you a prediction that Fuller said when this is in 81. And I thought, God, Fuller, man, you're nuts. He was like 80 something years old at the time. You're an old man. I'm almost old as he is now. But he said, all those beautiful office buildings, downtown and all that. He says, that's the best real estate in the world. And it's empty they're empty every night. They're empty right now. But he also said back in 81, when I first studied with him, that those office buildings would be homeless shelters. I went, oh. And as a guy who has a lot of real estate, I said, oh my God, don't tell me that. Don't tell me that. And then a few years ago, 20 years ago, I was in Johannesburg, South Africa. And the best real estate in Johannesburg is now homeless people. It's to take away the debt, the mortgage. It's 2008, it was, those credit default swaps. It was for residential real estate. So they bailed them out. This next crash is for the hedge funds and private equity that invested in all this commercial real estate. So I have another $100 million project coming out, but I just got bailed out. I just got backed up by the Fed and the government. So that's why it's socialism for the rich. Unfortunately, there's capitalism for the poor middle class, those that work for money. You're on your own. Right. If you own a small restaurant and you got to let go of your staff, you're no different than your staff right now. Okay? The national debt for World War II was $25 billion. Every day today, they're printing $125 billion. Every single day, that's like 5 World War IIs per day. They're printing so much money to keep this think of a hot air balloon with a tear in it. And they're doing desperately trying to fix this tear, but no matter how hard they try, the tear has gone beyond, it's coming down. So in financial terms, it's called our debt to GDP has now gone from 60 to 90 to 105, it's going to 120. We're bankrupt. And they're going to print more and more money, which means savers are losers, just as I predicted. your money is going to be worthless in a few years.
Wow.
So my message is the same as some of your other guests. This is metamorphosis time. Financial education, in Rich Dad's terms, is really financial transformation. And the definition of metamorphosis is very important. Metamorphosis, the definition is the evolution or the transformation from an immature form to an adult form. An immature form to an adult form. Metamorphosis is the same as a caterpillar turning into a butterfly. And Fuller always said there's nothing to predict a butterfly inside a caterpillar. So everybody listening right now, if you're struggling financially, just think of yourself as a little caterpillar. And this crisis is your cocoon. The question is, what do you emerge as? Do you emerge as a victim? You know, the world did that to me, and the capitalists are crook, the rich are bastards, and all this stuff? Or do you say, oh, this is the best thing that ever happened to me? The same as my health. I am ground zero for the coronavirus. All that it does is inspire me to get healthier. You're either going to get healthier and wealthier, or you're going to go bust. Your choice. It sits between your ears, your heart, your body, your mind, your spirit, your attitude. This could be the best thing that ever happened to you, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, if you turn on to a butterfly, or somebody will step on you like a little worm. It's your choice. That's where the choice, the metamorphosis, the evolution or the transformation from an immature form. Yeah, mommy, daddy going to take care of me. Mommy and daddy going to pay for my education. The government's going to give me Social Security. I have a 401k. You know, my employer is an asshole. You know, You're going to evolve from that into an adult. That's metamorphosis. Right. If you grow up mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, financially, and health-wise, voila, this is the best thing that happened to me. But if you're still a victim, you're not going to make it. It's here today. Rich Dad's prophecy is more true today than ever before. And it's about why the biggest stock market crash in history was still coming. Wall Street Journal trashed me. They took me to the cleaners. Said, you don't know what you're talking about. And I don't blame them, because I was threatening their nest, you know what I mean? So I wrote this book, so it's here today. The point here is this, as you and I know, because we've seen Inside the Machine, we've met the wizard. The real problem isn't the stock market. The real problem is the shadow banking system. The banking system, the financial markets we don't see, you know, which is the repo market, the consumer corporate credit market, and then the commercial paper market. They're broke. So this stuff was happening in September last year, but they keep hyping it, you know, CNBC and those guys. I know they have a job to do. They keep hyping this market up. So the market was hitting great peaks. And so I tell my friends who have 401ks and IRAs and all this stuff, I said, hey, did your financial planner call you in December and tell you to get out? No, they told you to stay in. They told you to stay in, and meanwhile, the stimulus package comes in, it jacks the price. After they started to deflate, the stimulus market came in, they popped it up again so guys could escape. So the rich could escape. Meanwhile, they're on CNBC telling you, stick it out, stay for the long term, you know, the market will bounce back. Oh, give me a break. Are you that stupid? Can't you see what they're doing? And the fact is they cannot. So this crash, as you know, just prior to this crash was called the everything bubble. Stock market was high, real estate was high, I don't know what else was high, gold and silver, everything was high. The trouble now, everything's deflating. I'm in serious trouble financially at one end because I own hotels and I have 8,000 rental units. Today they're not paying rent. Now, does that affect me? Of course it does. But the way the rich, or my rich dad taught me to play the game, is I have LLCs and S corporations and C corporations. Corporations, I hide behind that. So I own nothing technically. They can sue me for my money, but they'll sue a limited liability corporation. They can't touch me. So this is what I taught in Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So it's not the asset. I have businesses, I have real estate, I have stocks, bonds. I don't have any stocks, bonds, but I have gold and silver, I have oil. Now, is my oil guy in trouble? No, because he didn't finance his oil drilling with debt. So some people are doing really well because they saw this coming. So it's not the asset class. It's really understanding or looking behind the curtain, seeing the wizard. Right now is Powell and Larry Summers and these guys. I mean, they misled us totally. So am I going to cry? No. What am I going to do? I'm going to change me. I can't change them, but I can change me. That's my attitude.